Alright guys, so I made a video last time on how to make this interface, well, how to kind of create this layout, and this is what I've come up with since then. What we've got here is this cool list, and let me refresh here. We've got this list of, it's an iPhone style, iOS style list here. I'm scrolling it with my mouse wheel. I've got the scroll bar here. This is a CSS3 scroll bar, so I'm not creating a scroll bar, I'm just styling it. And what's cool about this is that because of the layout that we chose before, this actually works on iPad and tablets. I can actually scroll this independently, so that's one thing to note. Now, that's not what this tutorial is about. This tutorial is about making this list a live search. Now, why is that difficult? Well, first, basically what we want to do is when we type in something here, we want it to filter the list below. Now, you might be thinking, okay, well, as I type, let's loop through the items and do a string match, right? That's the way we would have done it in the past. That's why I did it in the past. And that actually works fine on super fast browsers like Chrome and Safari. But on browsers that are shitty, like Firefox, for example, it can't handle that. That is way too much looping, way too fast for Firefox to handle. And God forbid you decide to use Internet Explorer, it would probably just stop working altogether. So let's discuss a better way to do a live search on DOM elements, these are LIs, that is efficient using jQuery. So here is the output list. So let me show you, and I'll ignore the PHP on this for now. Let me show you what these elements look like. So this is a UL, and there are LI. So the row that has a letter in it is an LI with a class letter, and then a row that has a name in it has an LI with an A tag in it. Okay, because these are clickable. And now this has a couple special pieces of information. First of all, we have a class specifically on these guys. We have the person's name actually as an attribute on the A tag. That's super important for this. And then we have a UID, which is just something I'm using for loading Ajax content, and then we actually have the name in here as text. Now, here's the technique that we're going to do. jQuery has the ability to do an attribute selector. Okay, so one line in jQuery to do an attribute selector, which is why we're putting the name in here. Now jQuery has the ability to do an attribute selector that it just contains the attribute value, not equals the attribute value. That's basically saying if the attribute can, like let's say here's the name Alvaro Castaneda. Castaneda? I don't know. If I wanted to type in ALV or let's say ARO instead, just part of this name, the jQuery selector would say if the attribute user contains ARO, then select it. And that's exactly the tool we want to use. So in order to make that, and here's the selector, attribute contains selector. This is the key right here. Okay, so this is the selector that we're going to be using. It's going to be attribute star equals. Okay, so again, the technique that we're going to do is put the data that we want to search by as an attribute on all of our guys. Okay, and then the second step that we have to do is we want to make sure that these letters don't show. Okay, so let's start writing that. So if you want to see the PHP behind the user list, here it is. What it's doing is it's starting with a blank letter. It's looping through all the users. It's getting the first letter, string to upper, the first name 0, so the first character of the first name. It's storing the name, so I have it. Storing the lowercase name, so I have it. Okay, because also to note that the name that's in that user attribute is a full lowercase name. We need the data to come in fully lowercased so we can search on it. Anyway, the next thing that we do is we say if the first letter, so let's say we're an A, the first letter be A, does not equal our letter that we have stored, so which is nothing, so it doesn't equal, so we're good. That means we're going to go into this loop. That means that we're going to spit out the letter and spit out the name. Now, if we come to an A again, now that we've stored this, now that we come to another A, it's going to skip over all of this and jump right to here and just display the name. So this is how we're actually doing that iPhone style list using this function here. Let's talk about the JavaScript. That's really the main subject here. So people search key up. So people search is the search box that we have. So first thing that we need to do is we need to store the word, the partial word that we're searching for, which is going to be var search equals this dot val, and we need to make sure it's dot to lowercase. Again, we need to make sure case is not part of the equation here. So we're just lowercasing everything. We're going to say console.log search just to make sure we're on the right track. So we'll come back here, we'll click on console, and we'll say Sean. Okay, and we can see that we're getting our search query just fine. So now that we have our search query, now what we want to do is write our jQuery special contains selector. So that's going to be quote square bracket. The attribute that we want is user, and then we do our attribute contains, so star equals, and then quote, and what's the value we want? Well, it's the search value. So to do the value, we need to close our quote and add a plus sign and say search, and then we need to put a plus sign and open our quote back up and put the final single quote and close our square bracket, and now we want to close off our jQuery selector. So this is the attribute contains selector for a partial word. So let me actually prove this to you before we do it in the code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and select this Benjamin. So I'm going to type in the word JAM. So here's my attribute selector. I'm going to delete all this, which is going to be dynamic. We're going to type in JAM and hit enter. And you can see that pulled up this attribute right here. So we know that this selector works, and we know that it's fast and efficient, and jQuery is only doing one loop in the background. I don't even know if they're looping at all. I figure they would. I don't know how jQuery is doing it, but it's way faster than if we had looped through the data ourselves. So anyway, here's our selector. Now what we want to do is with this selector, we want to show the LIs, right? Well, right now everything is visible. So before we actually show something, we have to hide everything. So we're just going to say contact list, which is the parent, LI. So before I do, you know what? Yeah, before I do that, we're going to say dot person, which is each each LI that has a person on it. We're going to say that dot hide. So the first thing we're going to do is hide all of the people. Okay. So and then the next thing that we do is when we find the guy that we want, we're going to show it, right? So if we take a look at this, and I search for Benjamin, we can see that we have found Benjamin, and our search is working great. Now we need to throw in an extra key here that if we delete everything, we need to show everything. So let's add that query in here. So what we're going to say is if this dot val, so if we have a value, anything but blank, go ahead and do the search, and if we have blank else, then we're just going to say dot person dot show. This is going to show everything. So let's watch that. So if I say Ben, and if I delete everything, now we can see everything again. So we're working great now. We're kind of there. It's fast. It works in Firefox. It's quick. It's zippy. This is great. Now we have a problem that if I type in Chris, you can see that all the other letters are here. So what we need to do is actually hide not the A tags, but we need to hide every LI. We need to hide every LI in the list. So to do that, instead of saying person.hide, we'll grab our parent and say contact list li.hide. And so if we take a look at the code here, you can see that contact list is our parent, and then everything inside of it is going to be our li. Okay, so this is going to say hide every li, and now this is currently selecting the A tags, and we're showing them. But because we're hiding the LIs, not the A tags, we need to say we need to show the parent. So now we're showing the parent. So let's take a look at that. So now if I type in Chris, you can see that now we're still correct, but now we've completely, our letters are gone now, but our search is correct. So we're kind of there, but not all the way. So let's take a look. We have to show more than one thing. Not only do we have to show the li, so this is the li, we also have to show the letter. To find the letter, we just chain on to the end of here, .prev li.letter. Remember, we had the letter class .show. So what we're basically saying is find a partial match on an A tag, then grab the parent and show it, and keep going previous LIs until I get to one that has the class letter, and then show that as well. And that is our solution. And now you can see that we're getting this beautiful live search with the letters going away, and it's exactly what we want, and it's fast. That's the key. It's really fast. Yeah, so that's how you do a live search on DOM elements, and making it as quick as possible that I've found so that it doesn't freeze up the browser by doing many loops on huge lists. Just to note that we had a bug on here. If I typed in Chris and then deleted everything, we didn't actually get our whole list back, and that's because we forgot to change this else statement. Right now we're still only showing A tags. What we need to do is show everything, so we're going to replace that with contact list li dot show, and that's going to show all of our LIs now. So now that I refresh and type in Chris and then delete, now we get our whole list back. So that was an extra thing we had to add.